Our next briefer is representing Professor Cook's group, and we're really looking forward to hearing all about zoonosis in New York.
Okay, hello everyone. Today I will be providing an overview of our semester's work on zoonotic disease in New York and solutions through our assembly bill. But first I'd like to thank the entire team for their contributions this semester and for Dr. Cook for his great guidance. So today I will be talking about the relevance of the matter, the risks in New York, the bill, and what solutions it proposes, as well as some metrics for success and possible challenges. So many of us have likely heard of SARS, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome. It was the first new and readily transmissible virus to emerge in the 21st century, and it was recognized as a global threat in mid-March of 2003. Now, it is likely that infected bats came into contact with civets, which are a cat-like species, and then these civets, while in a live animal market, allowed the virus to multiply and evolve until eventually it was able to hop over to humans, making it a case of zoonosis, which is a disease spread from animals to humans. Now, the crisis passed due to various interventions. SARS was contained in less than 4 months, largely because of an unprecedented level of international collaboration and cooperation. But the question is if we are better prepared to prevent the next disease outbreak. So zoonosis is widespread. 75% of new or emerging diseases and 60% of all infectious diseases have zoonotic origins, highlighting the need for a more preventative solution. So as previously mentioned, zoonosis is an infectious disease that can be transmitted between animals and humans, like in the SARS example. It can be fungal, such as ringworm from cats to people, and it can be bacterial or parasitic, but given the concern about preventing the next epidemic or pandemic, we will focus more on viral spread. And viral spread occurs when a disease from a reservoir, which is the organism where the disease normally lives and grows, goes through a genetic change and becomes infectious to human hosts. And one type of this genetic change is mutation, which occurs particularly in RNA viruses like SARS or COVID, and when they make copying errors during their replication process. So while many of these changes do end up being harmless, some can affect the virus's ability to infect humans, and that is what happened during the SARS example in 2003. So in other pathogens like avian influenza or bird flu, reassortment can occur, where a highly pathogenic strain that is deadly to birds can be contracted by someone that already has the highly infectious human flu, for example. And these two viruses will reassort or mix to create a human disease with the infectivity of the human strain, but the deadly abilities of the bird strain. And live animal markets in particular are the perfect place for this mutation and reassortment to occur. Animals are typically confined in small cages stacked closely or even on top of each other, often across species lines. And this physical proximity allows for more contact and transmission of pathogens. So markets often have inadequate waste disposal, with animal blood, feces, and bodily fluids often accumulating in stalls and drainage systems. And stressed animals experience immunosuppression, which increases their susceptibility to infections and makes them more likely to shed viral material. Market workers and customers often handle live or recently slaughtered animals without gloves or proper sanitation protocols. And pathogens acquired en route can be introduced into the market, where they might rapidly spread among other stressed, immunocompromised animals. So overall, these characteristics make them hotspots for the evolution of zoonotic diseases and the potential spillover events, which is the ability of an animal virus to become infectious to people in the first place. So New York State has at least 82 documented live animal markets, the vast majority of which happen to overlap with the state's most dense population, which is New York City. And the city alone has 80 of these markets, denoted by red paws on this map. And since 2022, 61 cases of bird flu have been documented in domestic flocks. And the state as a whole is a hotspot because it has migratory bird flyways and is one of the top ports of entry for wildlife imports in the United States. But the problem in New York requires a solution. Assemblymember Joanne Simon introduced the bill 5947 in February of 2025. And the bill proposes 3 overall solutions: a prohibited species list, targeted import bans based on this list, and it grants the Department of Environmental Conservation the power to suspend licenses of live animal markets. So a prohibited species list reduces the diversity of species present within the wildlife trade, minimizing the genetic pool at human-to-animal interfaces. And species are chosen for prohibition based on their high potential for zoonotic transmission. So bats are of particular concern for their ability to carry viruses without becoming sick. They can also fly very long distances, and they have extremely long lifespans. Rodents, with high reproductive rates and close contact with human environments, can spread diseases like hantavirus. And primates pose a risk due to their genetic similarity to humans. Species of concern that require more surveillance include domestic animals and livestock that can also transmit pathogens such as salmonella, especially where hygiene and veterinary oversight might be poor. And birds are of concern for their documented role in zoonotic disease outbreaks, such as avian influenza. Now, the second solution proposed, which is targeted bans, help to block spillover by preventing these high-risk species from coming in contact with humans to begin with. And the third solution proposes license suspension, which addresses the fact that zoonotic spillover can occur via many direct pathways, including bodily fluids or droplet transmission, for example. And suspending licenses for these markets is an effective way to break that chain of transmission. So the solutions proposed overall represent a holistic One Health approach that identifies that the health of people, wildlife, domestic animals, and the environment that they all live in are important factors in preventing the risk of disease. And the bill embeds this principle by requiring agencies to coordinate and by focusing more on early intervention. Now, given the solutions proposed in the bill, there are some elements that lack strength. Firstly, a blanket ban proposed by the bill may not be based on species-specific evidence, which has the potential to delay timely responses. Further, this bill may increase operational costs regarding enforcement and regulation, and small businesses may end up losing income if species commonly sold in their markets end up being banned. It also has the potential to drive wildlife trade underground to the black market, which would make monitoring and surveillance even more challenging. The third is the fact that the bill requires coordination between multiple agencies that all might have different priorities, which creates challenges such as jurisdictional disputes and delays in decision-making processes. And lastly, research institutions, zoos, and universities, for example, that rely on restricted studies for their research might face higher operational costs due to new permitting requirements or biosafety upgrades. And these challenges inform how we might measure the success of the bill. And our overall desired outcome here would be little to no instances of zoonotic spread from wildlife trade in the state, but it's important to understand how we might track that progress. So outputs of a successful implementation include a timely and accurate list of banned species, more resources for law enforcement, allowing fewer hurdles that prevent the closure of non-compliant markets, and a well-defined process for universities and researchers to apply for exceptions that they might need. But some metrics we can use to infer that these solutions are working, even though this is a preventative measure, include the number of high-risk species intercepted, fewer instances of sick animals within the markets, and an increase of animal markets passing inspection within the first year of implementation, seeking 100% by year 2. So to wrap up, zoonosis is a big problem, as we saw with SARS in 2003. New York City is at a high risk with over 80 live animal markets, highlighting the need for this bill. And the bill proposes 3 solutions that align with a holistic One Health approach, and all work to prevent zoonosis and intervene when cases might arise. But this requires coordination across multiple agencies. And although there are some inherent challenges, this bill represents a giant step towards curbing the next epidemic or pandemic. Thank you. Any questions?
For your presentation, are there documented cases of bird flu infecting humans yet or not?
There have been a few cases. However, the concern is human-to-human transmission. which actually has not been documented yet. So that is the main concern of when the virus can transfer over from human to human and end up being an epidemic or pandemic. But yes, there have been documented cases of bird flu infecting humans. Yeah.
I have a question about slide 7.
Yeah.
It was describing an increase in. I'll wait till you get to it.
Sorry.
No worries. It seems to me that the rate of zoonotic disease transmission to humans is increasing over time. Do you know the cause of this or why this would be the case?
I mean, I would likely attribute that to globalization. I think increased trade and increased wildlife import across the world is increasing the amount of wildlife imports everywhere. And when species are traveling, they can acquire pathogens and introduce it into their markets. So I think that would probably be the main reason why. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Do you have an example of a live animal market being shut down and it being successful in mitigating the problem?
Yeah, actually, in February of this year, there was like a mini outbreak of bird flu in the bird markets here in New York City in early February, and they shut down all 80 of the markets, which ended up allowing the reduction of bird flu. And they had to close down for at least 5 days and then pass strict sanitation protocols in order to reopen. So, yeah.
Nice job. Thank you.